Tonight, we go unscripted with a man who didn't just find crypto, he found his life again inside of it. He is a creator, investor, entrepreneur, and one of the most trusted voices in digital. But his story doesn't start with charts or coins. It starts in Youngstown, Ohio. In a season of depression, debt, and self doubt, a season he openly admits he almost didn't survive. And somehow he turned that pain into purpose. A PhD in communication, a professor, a broadcaster, a man who had every reason to stay in the safe lane and still chose the uncertain road of crypto, freedom, and building something real. Now he's building tools like CoinDuel, AI, Xtoggle, and Crypto B Club, not to hype the market, but to help people think smarter, move faster, and win longer. Tonight, we're talking about resilience, reinvention, self custody, the institutional era of crypto, and what it really takes to bet on yourself when everything feels impossible. Welcome, Zach Humphrey, to Unscripted.
Yeah, happening, Leslie. Thanks so much for having me. That was a super dope intro too. Yeah, super pumped to be here. Super pumped to get it going, and it was great having you on the Crypto Breakfast Club podcast, and happy to be here talking with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was fun. That time went by very fast. And thank you for coming to my podcast as well. I was doing a little bit of research on you, Zach, and you have such an amazing story. And it's always very sometimes we don't talk about the humans or the trials and tribulations that people go through to get to where they are. People always see the nice things, the flashy things. They see where you are now, but they don't see the journey. And I was like, you know what? People need to hear your journey. People need to hear where you were, how you feel, because what you went through, it's raw and real. But one of the things that I was reading about you is that you've been open, about your depression hitting the lowest points. What was the moment that you realized, you know what, I have to keep going?
Yeah, I struggled with mental health way back in the day. It was actually while I was going to get my PhD, and it's a lonely world trying to pursue that. And looking back on it, I think one of the reasons why I wasn't in a great mental headspace back then is because I wasn't doing it for me. And I had to learn that the hard way. I was doing it. I was a lot younger back then, but I was doing it. To prove other people wrong. Growing up, I wasn't like the best kid. Teachers would say, things to me that would, irritate me. And I wanted to prove them wrong because while I didn't get good grades in school, I just wasn't interested. But so I joke about it now, but I literally like obtained a PhD to like prove to my 7th grade and 6th grade teachers that, I wasn't who they said they were. But in the process, that didn't really help me a lot. I found that wasn't too fulfilling. And, I got to the point where, I was a professor working in the field. I was also a sports broadcaster for about 7 years on radio and TV at the same time while I was pursuing my degree and working as a professor. And I loved a lot of aspects of it, but I didn't love the idea of somebody putting a cap on my potential. And so similar to how I felt when I was like a young kid, I felt like, I was kind of put into a box. Even after I got my PhD, I felt like I was working really hard, but I was on somebody else's timeline, meaning like I couldn't get a raise even if I worked harder than the next person. I'm like, well, how does that make sense? I don't like that. Like if I'm working hard, I want to see the fruits of my labor and I want to benefit from that. Right. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I mean, as I was kind of working, I started to pursue the whole YouTube thing and never really thought about it like too much of it being like the full-time thing. I was just like, man, this is like another creative outlet. And I missed the broadcasting when I went into full-time being a professor. I missed that element of it, even though I was teaching it. I missed being on the mic and being on camera and all that stuff. And I was kind of in the background learning about investing. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm not afraid to be on camera. I'm just going to start recording myself along my journey. And, we could talk about, the last 5 years, but, I went full time with crypto and left the whole 9 to 5 behind in late 2021. And, it was a big leap, but I look back on that day and, thank God I made that move, because a lot of people think about it for a long time. And as you know, they don't, right? It's risky. It's tough. It's nothing's guaranteed. There's no comfy paycheck anymore, right? As long as you show up, you got to show up and you got to go get it. And you got to show up every single day, even when you don't want to, or else, nobody's going to be there to help you out. But yeah, it's been a fun ride. It's been an awesome journey, and yeah, just excited to talk about it, and hopefully people can glean from it, learn from it, and maybe even motivate a few people out there.
Absolutely. Because in this space, you went through that journey trying to get your PhD. And then you see a lot of people when they enter this space and they are taking losses, or, you never know. You never understand what a person is going through. And, this space, if you're already going through any emotional or mental, it can add a toll. And we've seen that over and over again, Zach. In this space, we've also seen people lose their lives, or off themselves because, it became too much. It's like, or based on your experience dealing with it, it's how can somebody learn to manage or handle or ask for help?
Yeah, I think back, when I was going through it, mentally, it was you got to find a way to get out of the cycle. And a lot of
Mhm.
people will tell you that anytime.
Yeah.
I think everybody's been through kind of those moments in time. And I still have bad days, by the way. Like, you don't just automatically wake up one day and you're okay. It's just being able to kind of snap out of those moments in time. Right. And so I think, instead of like turning a bad day into a bad week, a bad month, a bad year, bad day's okay, but it's like recognizing it and
Mhm.
realizing, kind of what set you off, like what's doing it, and then being able to get back on track that next morning. Right. And so going back in time, I think I was doing something that I didn't love to do. Right. And I was doing something for somebody else. And anytime you do that, every day feels like a struggle, right? Because you're like waking up, you're not excited about what you're doing. You're not doing it for you. And so we talk about it all the time. I know it sounds cliche, like find something you love to do, but truly, like, do that, like, and because when you wake up every day excited about what the days ahead, whatever it is, like, that matters. That makes you want to get up and go to work and do whatever it is you got to do. So I think that was the big thing for me. It was finally like doing something that I wanted to do, and not caring what people thought about it. Like in my late 20s, like, I think a lot of people probably share similar feelings and stories. Is like, a lot of times you're doing things not for yourself, but like for somebody else, whether it's like a parent or another person, or to prove somebody wrong. And it's not fulfilling, even though it might feel like it for a minute. At the end of the day, you're only hurting yourself, because
Mhm.
the most important conversations you have are the ones with yourself. And then you get to that point and you're like, wait a minute, what am I doing this for? Right. And so yeah, 100%. I started kind of just going back and saying, what do I want to do here? Like, what do I really love to do? And kind of stumbled upon crypto. It was kind of funny. I went to YouTube for like 3-4 months, and I was just talking about entrepreneurship and some of the businesses I had at the time, and kind of documenting my journey and like what I was learning as a business owner, and like while working. And none of those videos were really hitting for me, but I was investing at the same time. I'm like, you know what, let me try this crypto thing. I'll just throw a video out, see what happens. And so I made my first crypto video, I'll never forget. And I woke up the next morning, and at the time I went to bed, I had like 40 subscribers on YouTube, and I woke up to like 250, because this one video I posted like 10 o'clock the night
Oh,
before,
wow.
and it had like 2,000 views. And it was like, I was like, wow, it was my first crypto video. I'm like, I think I found something. And I tell this story to a lot of people. I literally had a conversation with myself in the mirror. And it's okay to talk to yourself, just don't talk back. That's what I always say. So I literally like stood at myself in the mirror, and I was like, I'll leave a couple of the F bombs out, but I was like, don't screw this up. like, and literally like just talking to myself, like, this is it. Like, this is your chance. This is your moment right here. Like, do it. Like, go full throttle every single day. Do whatever you got to do. Sacrifice whatever you got to sacrifice. And so I just kind of like, told myself that. And like, you look up and then you've got 1,000 subscribers, you got 2,000, 3,000, and you just keep going. And that's the biggest thing with content creation. I think with anything, it's just consistency, just showing up even when you don't want to. And some days you don't see the results, but over time you will, for sure.
That is so raw and real. And by the way, you can drop the F-bombs, on this channel.
Right.
Everybody, I tell everybody, just be yourself and, say it how it is and how you say and talk, and don't filter. It's completely unscripted.
Yeah, I guess it is right in the name, right?
Real what. And earlier, like you mentioned, it might be a cliche that if, do what you love. And that is true, because when you are doing something that you don't love, how there is such a struggle to get up the next day. You don't even want to go to sleep sometimes, but when you wake up excited for the next day, what you do, you want to get up and you want to see how that day is going to go. And I think a lot of us need to explore that in this space. Have you ever been, when you were going through that, where you said, you know what, I am at the edge. I don't know if I can overcome this and whatnot. And was there like a person, a phrase, or a moment that pulled you back from the edge?
No, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I got to some really, really dark places for sure, like back in the day. And, I don't think it was one thing or the other. I think it was a lot of like looking within and a lot of time spent alone. I remember taking like a long drive and going to a beach by myself and just spending like a week there. This is at the time I was working on my dissertation for my PhD, which is a stressful time for anybody who has to write a dissertation. And I was like just so close, but I was like telling myself, just don't quit. I'm going to finish this thing and then we'll figure it out from here. There were a lot of books too that I read. One book that I will say completely changed my entire life was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And people think about that title and they think it's just only about money, but it's not. It's a lot about mindset, and it's about, self-talk and how you kind of approach yourself and the conversations with yourself. And sure, one of those outcomes is, financial freedom, which was something I've always kind of striving for. But that book showed me a lot about, the mental side of things, the mindset it takes. When we think about money, we don't really think about it as much in terms of mindset, but like you have to have a good relationship with money before you can actually make money. And that was something like nobody ever taught me before. I never learned that. You just hear like, okay, build this business or be a lawyer or be a doctor and you'll make money. You have to have like a good mindset with money first. And there's a lot that goes into that. So that was one book that I would say definitely changed my perspective. And, relying on the good people in your life too, family and friends, like don't be afraid to rely on those folks and, ask them for help when you need it. And I think still today, I pick up the phone and call people who I look at as mentors, people who helped me along the way. And in the same way, like they call me too, right? It doesn't have to be like a one-way street. Like find those people where, you could talk to them about anything. They can tell you or ask you about anything. Like those are the people you feel comfortable with going to with anything. And they know that you're there for them too, and have a few of those folks. And, those sort of things help me a lot.
That is amazing. And is this right around the period of time where you contemplated suicide? And then, or was that like a different season or a different space in your life?
No, this was right around the time, like before I was getting my PhD. I was almost finished with it. And but I was going through like some struggle getting it done and had a bunch of revisions. And I was just kind of like almost at the end. And, a moment, something did happen, actually, that was, there's no other way to explain it, but it was a sign, I think, still today. my best friend, one of my best friends at the time, died. And it was right around, he took his own life. And it was right around the time that I was struggling with the same thing.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was kind of crazy. Like, I mean, like within like a 24-hour period, it was like a Friday that I was really struggling. And it was a Saturday morning. I got a call from another friend that my friend Nick had passed away. And it was shocking, right? But I can't help to think like, was he? You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
it's hard to wrap your head around it, what that all meant. But it definitely changed me in a lot of ways. And I never really had those thoughts again after that happened. And I don't know why, to be
Do you
honest with you.
think it was probably because you understood the pain of losing somebody to suicide that maybe you didn't want to create that pain for the ones that you loved and loved you?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, it gives you a whole different perspective. And, it made me kind of think of him and what he meant to me, right? It was almost like looking at it like in reverse. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, it completely changed my perspective. And, he was a motivating person for me too. And so like, I felt like, you know, I got to be here to kind of live his legacy a little bit. There was some of
Yeah.
that too. And so, yeah, it was a crazy time, and it definitely propelled me forward. And, I think about him often. I think about him all the time. So,
I always think that, people, when they get to that headspace, to the moment where it's like you are contemplating suicide and something just snaps in your life and you realize, that that's not the road that you want to take, the pathway, or people who do survive have a greater purpose, to share. And, anybody that is destined to tell a great story, you will go through immense trials and tribulations. It's how you get yourself out of it to share the story for the next people that are going through anything similar as you. Is there anything right now that, or any part of your story that you still do struggle to say out loud?
um,
And, any questions that I
you know,
ask, Zach, you complete the fifth.
yeah. No, I'm just honestly trying to think,
Yeah.
of like where I was, during those times. You know, um, I would say this, one thing, and I think a lot of people get here when they get in these dark times, they have a tendency to just shut everything off and everybody off. And I don't think I would have got to that place if I would have just communicated with a few of my close people,
Yeah.
leading up to that. You know what I mean? I don't think I would have got to that place. And I think a lot of people just feel like so isolated and alone that nobody would understand. And there's somebody that will,
Mhm.
whether that's like a person that's close to you or like go seeing a stranger. That's one thing I never did do, and maybe that's like a man thing, like a masculine thing. Like I don't need to go talk to somebody or something. I would say that's kind of BS. I think everybody could probably use one, a therapist or
Oh,
whatever, or just,
absolutely.
you know what I mean? On some level, I don't think it's and I think we have a different perception of that now. I think that is kind of like changing in terms of what that means, you know what I mean? To like be okay with going to talk to somebody about that. So part of me wishes I would have done that, but the other part of me wishes says like, hey, I overcame it in a different way, and that's okay too, right? So yeah, I focus now so much on what I'm doing and what I'm building. And I'm so excited. I'm happy to be doing what I'm doing every single day. I'm never bored. When I was depressed, I was like always bored. I didn't have anything to do. That was the other thing. It was like weird. It's like now, like I feel like in some ways I don't have time to be depressed. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I'm just busy. And I think that's good. Like so get lost in things that you love to do, right? And I think it keeps your mind from going down these dark paths and that sort of thing.
Oh, absolutely. So going through everything that you went through, how would you define, or how do you personally define resilience now?
Yeah, I think it's different for everybody, and I think everybody's on a different timeline, right? And I think one thing I would say not to do is don't compare yourself with anybody in terms of where they are. Don't measure yourself against anybody. Just focus on what you want, your goals, what you want to do, and what you want to accomplish, and focus on your timeline. Because financial freedom is different for everybody. Success is different for everybody. And you have to kind of outline all of that first. Like, because a lot of people, I find a lot of people don't get what they want because they don't know what they want. You know, like, so spend time, and journaling really helped me too. That was something I didn't mention. I'm still an avid journaler, just about every day. I just like to write down my thoughts. Sometimes, like, there are these profound thoughts. Sometimes it's just like what I was thinking today, where my mind went today. I think that's really beneficial because otherwise our minds just go all over the place, especially if you're like a busy mind like me, that I sometimes can't sleep at night and my mind's just racing. I'll grab a notebook and just write stuff down. And that allows me to, like, okay, I can take a breather. So yeah, I think resilience is different for everyone, but I don't think it's an end game though either. It's always a journey, right? Like, it's never like, okay, we got it, we figured it out. It's just constant, evolving thing that, you have to get to this point where you just embrace the chaos, if you will, like embrace the uncomfort. You know what I mean? It's going to be uncomfortable, especially if you're like an entrepreneur or trying to be an investor. It's like, just be okay with chaos and like understand it's just part of the process. And just enjoy it, have fun.
Absolutely. Zach, okay. Now we're going to get into some crypto and some of the work that you're doing and building in crypto. So thank you so much for sharing everything that you've shared. It's been very raw and real. Now, I want to get to truth serum about crypto. So what's the darkest truth about crypto that most influencers won't say out loud?
Man,
In
there's
your
so
opinion.
many. Yeah, there's so many, right? Cabals are real. I will say that. Like, there's definitely things where you can see it, and you're not on the inside and you're on the outside looking in. And when I first got started, I really, came into it with, oh, everybody just thinks like me about this. Like, they're good people and they're trying to figure things out. And as you know, you quickly learn that's not the case, right? There's a lot of bad fucking actors in this space, and you got to avoid them at all costs. And you get better at it. Like, the longer you stay in the game, the more you can kind of sniff out the bullshit and realize, like, okay, I see what's going on here. And follow your gut, right? Like, if something kind of throws you off, usually you're right, and stay away from it. But the cabals and all that, I mean, it's a real deal, especially with the small cap space. But even with the big VC like funding rounds, you can argue like there's more scams and bullshit going on there than there are in the meme coin side of things. So I've just tried to really simplify my approach. The longer I've been in crypto, I've just tried to, not get involved with everybody and anybody, really be selective with the people who I let into my circle, and just stay in my lane. I've got my own goals, my own vision, and, people see that. And I think, don't try to be somebody you're not. That's the other thing. People see right through that kind of shit, especially in this space, so be yourself and find your people and stick to it. And know that there's a lot of bullshit out there, and just always be on guard. Always be on guard. And if it smells like shit, it probably is, and leave it alone.
If there's flies around it, it's shit.
100%.
Zach, what's the biggest lie retail investors keep believing every cycle?
Oof.
Or one, or because there's probably a few right out there.
Yeah, I think one thing is thinking that it's going to be the same. Thinking like that it's going to happen the same way. I mean, as long as I've been in crypto, there's been so many things that have just, black swan events, like they just come out of nowhere and derail whatever it is we were thinking. So I guess I've really got to this point where, like, I don't expect anything, but I expect everything at the same time, if that makes sense. Like expect the unexpected at all times. And what I'm really trying to do now from an investor standpoint is like position myself where, like, no matter what the market does, I've got an answer. So if the market goes down, I want to make sure I have a cash position ready to buy like high conviction assets that I know are, selling off at a premium price. And if the market goes up, I know I'm well positioned and, I'm gaining on my portfolio when the market's going up. and this is something I've been preaching a lot the last couple of years, is just quit trying to like pinpoint exactly what you think is going to happen and build your portfolio around this, because most of the time you're going to be wrong, right? Talk about like, or plan for like, okay, if this happens, I'm ready. If this happens, I'm ready. If this happens, I'm ready. And then you'll be able to react and respond accordingly, like when whatever happens, especially now with the institutions, like there's so many things that are thrown at us on a day-to-day basis. Like it's impossible to predict like what's going to happen next.
I think it is sometimes impossible, except when the mention of tariffs, then we know that the market's going to tank. But that's another conspiracy for another day, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Zach, when do you know, or how can you tell us, in your opinion, when we can know when we're watching hype versus real innovation in this space with everything that's being thrown at us, everything that's coming out? It's like almost every day there's something new.
Yeah, I think one thing that I've tried to do, if I come across something that I think is interesting, I try to immediately find out who's behind the project. If those people are approachable, that's a good sign. If you can't find who they are, that's not good. Especially if it's like, some kind of VC backed or big funded project. You want to see who's behind it first and foremost, right? And like get a good gauge on that. Like sentiment is also a big thing. Like, going into the telegrams of various, crypto projects. Are they answering your questions? Are they ignoring you? Are they, basically kicking you out? Like those are red flags, right? Like anybody who's building something that's actually here to stay and sustainable, they're willing to talk about it in a real way, right? So like if they're not doing that, then they're probably not here for the right reason, and they're probably not here for a long time. They're just here for a good time.
So do you think the era of not being doxxed is ending because of everything that has happened in the space? Because you know how there are some projects out there and they're like, oh, I'm not doxxed. And what was it, a few years ago, we were okay with that. We were like, okay, they're not doxxed, we're going to go in, they're building, some people trust them, etc. But now it seems like that is getting shorter and shorter, where we're like, you know what? No, we seriously don't trust. And if you're not going to dox, then, goodbye.
It's a tough one, right? Like, because the example I always use is Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Bitcoin, the granddaddy of them all, is we don't know who created it, and it works, right? So like, unless it's like perfectly coded, then I would say like, yeah, I want to see who's behind it, right? Like, but it's tough because Bitcoin works so well. I mean, Dogecoin, same thing there. Like Dogecoin worked very well. Like, there's been some great meme coins that we don't know who's behind it, but they've worked. But I think we're moving into an era where I think it's more important that we do know who the people are behind it. And I think we'll see, but I think with like the Clarity Act and regulation, I think this is going to be a huge point of emphasis, and we're going to have full KYC, whether we like it or not. I mean, a lot of people in crypto are not going to like it because they like the anonymous nature of it. I'm really not one of those people. Like I dox myself every single day in videos. So do you, right?
Yeah.
So I'm okay with it. I get why people aren't, but I feel like now with the institutions here, the institutional era, like you mentioned at the top, is upon us. I think it's going to be almost like required for to be looked at as like a legitimate asset from the institutional standpoint, right? So we'll see how it plays out. So to answer your question, it's still kind of mixed, but more often than not, I want to see who's behind it.
Yeah, I agree with that. What's your most expensive mistake in crypto, financially or emotionally?
Oh man, I've shared this a couple of times. So I won't name the project just out of like good faith and just no reason to kind of call names out. But I invested a good amount of money in 2021. I invested like $40,000 into a project pretty early on, and did extremely well. It was at a very low market cap, and it just came out. And at one point, it was worth like $7.5 million worth. And what happened was the project was so new that I became a top holder very, very quickly in this project. And I was still very new to crypto, still kind of learning all the ropes. And I got forced to lock my tokens up. It was a huge mistake. Now,
Oh.
I did it because I felt like the backlash from the community was like going to hurt my brand. You know, being a content creator, I was trying to kind of balance, you know, my image and
Mhm.
being this early investor in this thing. Whereas, like, if I didn't have a YouTube channel and I hadn't just like quit my job to go all in on this business, I would have probably never done that. Right. But I did it because of this dynamic of like trying to save face and like, was it a mistake? 100%. I still ended up doing extremely well on that investment. However, I left millions of dollars on the table. And, you know, it is what it is. It's part of the crypto game. I've had some other big L's as well, but I've also had some big wins, right? And, you know, I can't dwell on it. I can't sit here and, you know, talk about the past. I'm only looking forward. It's the only way you kind of, you know, have to be with it. But at the same time, I'll never make that mistake again. I think that's the biggest thing. You're going to make some costly mistakes. Just don't make them again. But that was the biggest one for me. It sucked. It was brutal watching price come down on that and my tokens being locked up. Yeah, the community was happy with me, but you know,
I mean, at the end of the day, does that pay your bills? And I think, you know, that's a very fine line
yeah,
because of course you want to make the community happy, but realistically, it doesn't pay our bills sometimes. I mean, maybe a percentage being locked up or whatnot, but I am big when, you know, you have stories like that because you learn from that. And if we don't have those type of stories, then you never know, you know, what you can do or the type of negotiations or things that you can do in the future or, you know, where it's going to position you. But
and what really pissed me off was, you know, it wasn't even like it wasn't a like sponsored deal, right? Because in the
mm,
space, like we have sponsored deals and things like
yeah,
that. And you know, I do that sort of thing. I've always been upfront when I take those deals. I think that's the most important thing for any crypto influencer is just be transparent with the audience. Tell them that you're being paid to talk about this always. But this wasn't that. I bought on the open market like anybody else would. And so like it was public. People knew that this project was launching. I knew about it. I was telling my audience about it. I was like, hey, this looks really interesting. I'm
yeah,
going to invest in this. And I did. What happened was, though, the owner of that project he didn't have a clue that I was going to go in with that much money. So he just thought like I was going to be an open investor, and I was, but I was really excited about it, and I went in on it, and all of a sudden I was like the number 3 holder, and he was like, you know, hey, you're the number 3 holder. The community's like, you know, blah 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 blah, and I'm like, okay, and so, but anyway, long story short, big mistake. We'll do that again. So
this is kind of where you learn, okay, maybe lock up a percentage or maybe split it into multiple wallets. So
yes, right, 100%, 100%.
you have to go through that stuff to learn, right? I mean, let me tell you, I've got into projects early on too. And, you know, at that point I didn't have fear, but it's like I didn't want to dump on the community either. And you know, you do have wallet watchers and you feel some type of way. And I have round tripped so much, Zach, so much that now I'm like, you know what? Sending me tokens, sending me this, that's not paying my bill. You want me to promote, you want to sponsor, you know, USDT, other stuff, because token allocation, it's very difficult to accept that and not be able to profit. You know, it depends too on the project, the situation, etc. I think those are case by case base, is it right?
Yep, for sure. And I always try to take stablecoin first and foremost
Yeah.
anymore. Like when I first started, you know, you're just kind of figuring it out on the fly. But now,
Mhm.
like knowing what I know, like I'm always just asking for like Ethereum, Solana, stablecoin, you know, and then let's do this thing because. But then what I'll do is like I'll buy it on the open market.
Yeah.
Like I'll buy supply on the open market if it's a project I'm with for the long term. You know, I've worked with VeChain in the past. I've been a VeChain holder for a long time. Like there's also like those just like good fits where it's like, hey, I've been talking about you guys organically.
Yep.
Like let's get a deal together and I could talk about you even more. Like I've already been talking about you, right? So those are the deals I kind of pursue now. And
Yeah.
like more top 100 projects, people that like don't need me also to like pump the chart, You know what I mean? Like when you feel like this, like pressure of like, oh, they're bringing me on at a 50K market cap, and if I don't get it to 500K, I didn't do my job. I don't really like that kind of pressure or that kind of dynamic, right? Personally, but yeah, but you live and you learn. I mean, I've had some costly L's, and I think people don't talk about that enough. Honestly, people love to talk about their wins. They love to talk about their wins, but I've had a lot of L's to get a lot of wins too. And I think most people would, if they're telling the truth, they would say the same, right?
Exactly. I think so too. It's like the circle that I'm currently in right now. A lot of them, even some of the females that are good at doing what they're doing, trading, they speak about that. They say, I had a lot of losses until I got to where I am. I had a losses too, and I'm just now, like my first few trades have been wins with one loss. But it's like that's right, Zach. We don't talk about it enough. When did you realize I'm not gambling anymore? I'm building wealth.
Probably when we entered the 2022 bear market.
Yeah.
And luckily I gave a lot of those gains back that we got in 2021, but luckily I was smart enough to not give it all back. And I think once we reached the bear market in 2022, one thing I guess you could say I'm proud of myself for is like not going out and buying a Lambo and buying all this materialistic stuff. Like it's not my style anyway. But I just from that point forward, I bought my first Bitcoin in the bear market, and like that was a big stepping stone for me, right? I was like, okay, like I'm becoming an investor now. Like I'm not just gonna like rely on the quick hits and the gambling side. I mean, sure, meme coins are great. And I still play in the meme coin trenches, but not nearly as much as I once did. And I don't play there with like, half of my money that's in crypto anymore. It might be like 10%, right? So I think once we reach the bear market and you could just kind of see the both ends of the spectrum of like, hey, the good times and the bad times, it makes you realize like how important it is to have staying power in this crypto space. And that's by investing in like the top assets first and foremost, building out companies that are sustainable products or services over multiple cycles, right? And so that's what I've really started to focus on. But it all started in the bear market. That's where I got the idea for XT Algo, my trading indicator that's been live since 2023. We just launched CoinDuel AI, which is a new company. Again, software as a service. These sort of things are amazing because you own them and they grow with you over time. Right. As your brand grows, your companies grow with you, and you're not relying on somebody else to come in and give you a deal. Those sort of things will still happen, but I want to have most of my wealth tied to things that are in my control. Right.
I love that. So is this why it was so important for you to create these tools that you have created?
Yeah, 100%. And the focus is always what problem can I solve, right, for my audience? So like listen to the audience. What could they use? And obviously a trading indicator that's actually easy to use for retail, to me, especially even back in 2023, was a big need. Like, especially for somebody who's relatively new, like, yes, there's trading indicators out there, but they're super sophisticated and there's a big learning curve, right? I wanted to create, and this is literally what I told the dev who created my indicator. I was like, I want to create the Walmart of indicators. And like, what I mean is like taking all the data that would be in these high powered models, but make it very visually easy to see. And it's like momentum up, momentum down, AKA buy signal, sell signal. That is what my people want to know. They don't necessarily need to know that, the MACD and the 200-day moving average and all of these sort of technical things are going into it. Let's do all that. Let's make it good and work, but let's give them the easy to digest format. So that's what we built with that. And then CoinDuel AI, same thing. A lot of people I would see in my comment section like, hey, Zach, I just got paid on Friday. I've got $300. I don't know if I should invest in Cardano or XRP. Which one should I invest in? And I'm like, well, I mean, it's kind of a difficult answer, but I could create a tool that will give you the pros and cons of both of those assets, and you can use it for your research. So that was the idea behind CoinDuel AI that we just launched. We just got that out of the gate. We already have got like 70 customers on board in like 5 days, which is pretty awesome. I'm super pumped about it. But it's awesome because you're solving a problem, you're giving something to people that they need, And so I was getting a call in there, giving something that people need, and you're growing a business at the same time.
Okay, so the tools that you have created, you said you're creating like the Walmart version, and you know that I'm just learning how to trade. So would this be easy to use for beginners? And this is what I'm understanding. So Xtalgo,
Mhm.
it's a real-time trading tool. And then CoinDuel AI, it's comparing tokens head to head with fundamentals, narratives, risk, and momentum.
Yep. Yeah, so the CoinDuel AI is more for like long-term investing, not so much
Okay.
like trading what you're doing. Now, XT Algo can be used for both. So
Okay.
it's a script that's overlaid on TradingView. So you still have to go and manually make the trade on WeX, because I know you use WeX, or
Mhm.
wherever it is you're trading. But like say you're trading on like the 4-hour, this would be a great tool because it
Okay.
overlays on top of TradingView. You could trade stocks, Forex, precious metals, crypto, all the top cryptos. As long as it's listed somewhere on TradingView, our script will work. Our indicator will work. By the way, Leslie, I'll give you a 100% coupon code. We'll talk offline, and I want you to use it and check it out, XT Algo, and maybe it can help inform your trading. But we'll talk about that later. But yeah, you can even zoom in on the 1 minute as well with XT. So I mean, if you're trading in like tight ranges too, it works as well. I found it best to be used for like swing trading myself. So
Okay.
more of like, 4-hour, 12-hour, maybe trading over a day or two, right? That's where I've had the most success with it. And that's what I tell people too.
I am definitely going to try it out because that is one of the ones that I wanted to move in. I see that some of the guys, most of the traders now are trading, at that time frame, and I was like, okay, I don't think I'm brave enough to get to that time frame yet, but maybe having the comfort of a tool like this and for a beginner such as myself, because there are a lot of girls right now too that want to learn trading, and I'm learning it, and they're like, well, now you can come and teach us, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. There's a lot of other, but I could probably give them advice, basics of what I know and understand.
For sure,
Now,
right? Yeah. Yeah. Good.
no, I was gonna say, go ahead. I was just gonna ask you a few more things about the tools.
No, all I was gonna say is like, you can give them enough to like use it as a jumping off point, but I feel
Mhm.
like people are gonna best learn like by doing. I mean, like sure, have the basics and things like that, but that's why I think is like so important. Like go paper trade, or like once you learn the basics, just go paper trade with fake money first, not real money. That's okay, and take some L's, right? Win a couple, and then like put 10, 20, $50 on there, right? Before
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I always say trade what you are willing to lose. Otherwise, if you're going already in there trading, you let me back that up a little bit, because one of the things that I learned is that when you go in there with the mentality is like, oh my gosh, this is my last couple of few dollars or whatnot, trying to make money off of it, you're trading off of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the times when you do that, you get wrecked. So then I started learning, you know what, you trade based off of what are you willing to lose, learn, and then how you can apply that, and no emotion. When trading, you have to have no emotion, but I'm learning, Zach. I'm learning.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's like they use that verbiage in gambling too. They call it chasing. And you know what that is? Like you've been to a casino where you see, the guy going back to the ATM for a third time and he's pissed off and he's just like, I'm gonna win this time. What always happens? Right? He's back at the
Gets
ATM or he's
wrecked.
leaving. Right, gets wrecked. The people who win are actually the people like that can afford to put the $100 in the machine that really don't care. Like
Yeah.
if they win or lose, they're just having fun. They know their limits. They're not over leveraging themselves. They're like, oh, I'm having a good Friday night, whatever. I'll put $100
You
in.
know what?
They're the
When I
people who
went
hit the
to
jackpot. You know?
Yes. When I went to the casino in Vegas once, I think my best trades were the ones where I was having a few drinks and I was just sitting there like, I don't care. I'm just gonna have fun because we're drinking and I'm just trying to kill time with while my other friends are playing poker, whatnot.
Yeah.
And those were like the best wins when I actually sit there and be like, okay, I'm gonna be strategic about it. I
I've
am
got
going
to
to try to
win
win.
right now. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Never. I always lost everything. And then I would have win. And when you have that win, sometimes you have to learn how to walk away. I do think that this whole week that I was trading, I was also doing, gambling on a few of the sites that are in here, crypto. And one of the things that I learned about myself is that I always have this intuition, this feeling. And every single time that I had that, I kept going and I got wrecked.
Mm-hmm.
So the minute that I started paying attention, to how emotions and your nervous system works, sometimes you have to cut yourself out because that's when you're going to get wrecked. And that's what I learned. So when I would start feeling that, I would cut myself out and I started getting wins. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no feelings, no emotions. But Zach, by you creating, what you're creating now, are you trying to build a business or build a legacy?
Well, I mean, both businesses and a legacy for sure. One thing that I've got on my mind now too is I also started a stocks channel. So my crypto channel is definitely what has propelled me to this point
Yeah.
on YouTube. But I look back after this past year and I'm like, I'm in the stock market too. I should be talking about stocks too. So I created Stocks with Zach. I'm posting there regularly. I'm excited about that. I've also got an entrepreneurship channel, which is more like macro, just talking about mindset, investing, advice, things I've learned along the way. And so I guess my bigger, plan for the legacy is to kind of branch out and be more than just the crypto guy. I want to look up, 3-4 years from now as we enter like the next decade. And I'm more of like this person who's known for crypto and stocks and entrepreneurship and brings on interesting people on his podcast, somebody who started in crypto, but has branched out into, this person who can help in multitude of different ways. And so really just kind of grow my brand, not going away from crypto, just extending it outside of just the crypto space. So I think that's more of like my legacy play. But in terms of businesses, I mean, now with AI, man, I am so excited. I've been spending tons of time utilizing like Replit and Claude, and I'm deep. I'm deep into the AI game now, and like I've never been short for ideas for businesses, but it's always been like, which ones do I want to pursue? I've got to go find this person and that person and this person. Now it's like I could just go and pursue it and see what I can build. So I'm super excited about, going back into some of my old notebooks and seeing what kind of ideas I had down there and hopefully, growing some other businesses.
Was it in your space earlier today where you guys were talking about AI and how, when you use AI the proper way, there's so many tools that you guys can create, and before there was a point where, we would stress about, okay, this is what I want to build, but I need a dev and this is how much it's going to cost,
Right.
I want to build a website, etc. And now with AI, there are a lot of tools and resources that you can actually execute all of that.
100%. Yeah. Before there was a lot more cost too, because you had to go find a web designer. You had to go find somebody who can code in the language you need in order to build what you want to build. You had to go, find a payment processor, and you had to go do all these things that, not weren't your expertise necessarily. Now with AI, yes, there's still costs, but it's significantly reduced, and like they handle it all for you on the back end. So now, like as a creative person, which that's me. Like I'm a creative, all over scatterbrain thinker, now I could just go into this AI model and just be scatterbrained, and they can make sense of it all for me and like put it together and make it make sense. So it's awesome. It's super exciting. I spent like 25 hours last week just messing around with Claude and Replit. Yeah, it's great. I love it. So I guess I'm still a nerd at heart too. But this stuff has just allowed me to like really be creative and come up with different ideas. So yeah, it's exciting, man. I'm pumped.
For the
I'm
people
very
that
optimistic about AI. That's one. So like, listen, I get why people are afraid and scared. I understand it, but I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic about it. I really think it's going to make life a lot easier. Now, there's going to be short-term pain. I think, in terms of like jobs loss and like, you got to get with it now. I think the further you fall behind, the more you're going to hate AI and have a pessimistic view on it. But if you can get out ahead and work with it now and learn that this is where we're going, whether we like it or not, I think you can start to be really optimistic, because eventually in my view, it's going to allow humans to do really cool shit. Like,
Mhm.
what I mean is, like, you know, the person who's like taking money at a toll booth, that's not a fun job, right? Like, people taking money at the cashier, like these monotonous things, like, we're not really using our brain to its max capacity. Like,
Yeah.
to nerd out for a minute, what makes us humans is that we have a prefrontal cortex, right? In other words, we have an imagination. That's what separates us from animals. Animals are fight or flight, right? We have an imagination. Now, it's our downfalls sometimes too, but it's also the reason why we're able to create things and invent things. Humans love to create things, invent things. Look, like the airplane, the light bulb, the everything, right? It's like, because we have this imagination. It's going to allow people to be able to utilize that, I think, even more. AI, right? Because we don't have we don't have the roadblocks of like having to, like, you know, do these things that, you know, really don't allow us to really think all that much, or like have an imagination, you know? I don't know if that makes sense, but
No, it does. And I actually was going to, I think you read my mind because I was going to ask you, for the people that are falling behind, for the people that are really not, are very skeptical about AI, what would you tell them? And I think that you just said it really well right now. And the imagination part of it, and then using the tools and resources to execute that imagination. Let me tell you, a couple of years ago, I was doing AI videos, Zach,
mm,
and, I created this news reporter, I wanted to call her, image of myself, because at that point I really didn't want to get on camera. And I would do videos, talking about news, talking about things. People thought it was so weird, right? But AI was not picking up. Those videos were not picking up. And, people on the timeline, they gave me feedback about it. And sometimes, I wish that I would have stayed and stuck with it, because I don't know how far advanced I would be using AI. But what I learned from that is that when you have an idea, when you have that imagination, even if people are not picking up, sometimes people think outside the box, it will eventually catch up, especially with AI, especially with technology.
100%. Yeah. And like now, like you look at YouTube, like the faceless AI videos are like
Oh my gosh. Isn't
booming,
that
right?
wild?
Massive. Yeah. It's crazy. I was thinking the other day, and I'll share this because other people, you steal it if you want to. I listen to like, you know, like rain sounds and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and like, and you know, like my girlfriend all the time, like she'll be drinking her coffee, reading her book, listening to like that cozy coffee, you know, thing where it's like AI
Yes.
and it's like, you know, it looks like it's some like winter wonderland or whatever. I'm like, those YouTube channels are probably killing it. And I went down the rabbit hole the other day and I was looking it up. This guy has like 3 of those channels. One of them's like rain channel. The other one's like a cozy coffee channel or whatever. This guy's making like 15K a month from ad
Wow.
revenue on YouTube. And I'm like, I gotta get in that business. I'm like, that's crazy.
That
So
is wild.
yeah,
Do you think that we're
it
going
just
to
makes you
get
wonder.
to it does. Do you think we're going to get to a place though where we are not going to be able to tell what is real and what is AI, especially with a lot of these pictures? We have Grok, we have ChatGPT creating images, we have Gemini 3. There are, and amongst other, those are the top 3 that I use. That's why I'm naming them. But now it's like you can go in and I upload a picture and I'm like, okay, ask it to change the color of my blazer. I mean, with my face though, you can kind of tell, I'm on live streaming and etc. But do you think that we are going to get to a point where the more we're feeding it, the more we're training it, and the more it's taking, our biometrics to the point that we're not going to be able to tell what's real, what's AI?
I feel like it's gonna get to that point. It's gonna get really, really weird. And what I wonder, I was actually just thinking about this the other day, yesterday actually. It's funny you
Mhm.
bring this up. I wonder if these platforms are going to force you to click a button that this is AI or not. Like, I wonder if there's going to be some kind of law created where like you're going to have to let people know if this is AI or not. I know one thing they've added to the YouTube side already. You have to check a box now. Is there
Mhm.
any AI? You've probably seen that, right? So,
Yes,
so
and
maybe
TikTok
that's where
has
we're
it
heading.
too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe that's where we're heading, where like you're just gonna have to like be totally upfront with like the
Mhm.
audience. Like, you're not gonna be able to just manipulate people. And if you do, like there's gonna be some kind of like stiff penalty or like demonetization or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best path forward I can think of right now. Like,
I wonder if these services are going to be able to tell if the images are AI or not, because let me tell you
that
something.
too.
There was a picture that I uploaded and it was AI. And it's like, to me, if you're in my comments and you ask if it's AI or not, I am going to be forthcoming and let you know that it is AI.
Sure.
But there was this gentleman that did at Grok, is this image AI generated? And Grok responded that it was not, that it like it was a real image because X, Y, and Z. So I was like, but there was a workaround that I did, where I downloaded the image, I screenshot the image, and then I upload it. So I don't
Mm,
know if it eliminates some of that metadata or whatnot of the actual original image where it doesn't read it. So that's what
interesting.
I'm saying. There's going to be like so much that you're going to do that people are going to figure out, to eliminate that metadata. And I learned about pictures and metadata and how people can get your information from a long time ago where technology is not where it's at. So this is what I do a lot. I do, if I take a picture or whatnot before uploading it to the internet, I always take a screenshot of that image and then upload it.
Interesting. Yeah, it's going to be wild, to be honest with you. But I want to get your thoughts on this, because at some point, like, I feel like with technology sometimes, or like with something like this, like you get too far one way, and then it's everybody's
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, let's come back over here. That's too much. Like, I wonder, like, at some point, at what point is, like, if we get to a point where everything's AI on YouTube, and then like somebody's like, wait, I got an idea. I'm going to go back to how we used to do it in 2024, where like we just talked to people like there was no AI. Like, are people going to be starving for like the old stuff? Because I find myself even like that a little bit today, like even just
Mhm.
with the internet and social media. Like, I love to go to a comedy show. And I think
Yes.
the reason why is because it's like, it's real, it's raw, it's human. It's not like manufactured or like online or part of this scrolling thing, right? Like, I want to go to like a live event. I want to see a live concert. I want to see a musician. You know what I mean? And I feel like people are kind of starving for that kind of stuff, because it's like away from the technology stuff. Does that
I
make sense?
No, it does. And I think that we crave it more because we do social media, we are online, we do crypto. So we are submerged in this
True.
world. I would say 24/7, not 24/7, but it seems like it's 24/7, right? And we are so submerged because we know that if we miss a day, we miss a few hours, guess what? Things go by so fast that when I go out to the world, I was like, okay, the world is still moving at the normal pace. There's still people out there, there's still events, and I don't know if they are catching up. I think it's almost like two different worlds, Zach. You have this world of humans that are actually still living life in the world and are not interacting. And then you have the world of the technology world where it's like people are so submerged, so consumed that these two worlds are still not completely merging. So, we see this world one way, they see us another way. My sister always tells me, like, Leslie, maybe you should get a job where you're outside socializing because you're always, inside on the computer, etc. And I was like, no, 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 I'm fine. I don't need to go out and socialize. But, I've always thought of that thing, Zach. Can you imagine where we get to a point where it's like we are forced to completely move into an AI world technology, and then we start wearing these freaking glasses? Have you ever seen episodes of Black Mirror where it's
Oh
like
yeah.
this big and then you go socialize? I have seen so many of those
Wow.
episodes, and I feel like they are telling us where we're going. We're just not seeing it
Yeah.
right in front of us.
No, it's wild, and some of it is kind of freaky, kind of scary for sure. But I think the world we live in, online and everything, and our business models, like, we got to be locked into like what's happening. You know what I mean? Because this whole thing's just changing so rapidly. But I mean, maybe one day, like, we wake up and it's like, oh, the thing to do now is to, like, you know, go sell out a freaking 5,000 people arena, like people used to do back in the day, like how to sell your Amazon products.
Where it's
Oh
like
yeah.
this big and then you go socialize. I have seen so many of those
Wow.
episodes, and I feel like they are telling us where we're going. We're just not seeing it
Yeah.
right in front of us.
No, it's wild. And some of it is kind of freaky, kind of scary for sure. But I think the world we live in, online and everything and our business models, like we got to be locked into like what's happening. You know what I mean? Because this whole thing's just changing so rapidly. But I mean, maybe one day like we wake up and it's like, oh, the thing to do now is to like, you know, go sell out a freaking 5,000 people arena like people used to do back in the day, like how to sell your Amazon products, and like you had to do it in person. Like I don't know, maybe that's like a thing that'll happen again, where it's like, hey, we're sick of seeing people on this screen, we want to see people in real life. I don't know.
Absolutely. Zach, we're almost at the top of the hour. It went by quick too. So I want to do some quick fire rapids with you.
Let's do it.
And then have you answer one last question and then we'll wrap up here. But okay, coffee or energy drink?
Coffee.
Long-term investor or degen at heart?
Long-term investor.
Hodl or take profits?
Oof. Hodl Bitcoin, take profit on everything else.
Bitcoin or altcoins?
Bitcoin.
Cold wallet or I'll do it later?
Cold wallet, especially for Bitcoin.
Favorite crypto narrative right now?
Ooh. Tokenization.
Most underrated coin category?
AI.
Biggest red flag in a token?
Bad tokenomics.
And what is your best advice for someone entering crypto in 2026?
Play the long game. Be here at least 4 years before you form an opinion.
Love that. Zach, if you could go back in time to the Zach that was drowning in debt, depression, and for the people that are watching you, whether they're men, women, maybe going through something very similar, what would you tell them today?
Keep going. Don't quit. Continue to talk to the people that are close to you. Don't be afraid to reach out to those people and focus on finding what you really want out of life. And maybe even more importantly, write all this stuff down. Like write it down, get it out of your head, and start journaling every single day. Things that you want to accomplish, things that you want to do, what success means to you in your perfect world. What would it look like? And then also write down like what you don't want to do. What are things that you don't like? And so then once you do that, start taking massive action toward those goals, and don't stop.
So do you think you would ever write a book?
I do. Yeah, I do want to. I just had a podcast with a buddy who wrote one, and he kind of inspired me a little bit because it's something I've been thinking about. And I do want to write one eventually, maybe a couple even in the future. I'd love to actually. Yeah.
That would be amazing because you have such a great story and there's so much depth to you that it's very hard to unpack all of it in 1 hour. Are there any few last parting words that you would love to leave the audience with?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was awesome. Really enjoyed it. And I would just say, use crypto as a tool for your goals, right? Like don't bank on it being the only thing. Also, like, don't be afraid to build in this space, like what you're doing, what I'm doing. And you don't have to just be an investor. And I've been telling people this for a long time, like invest in the space, but also invest in yourself, build a business in this space, find a niche, work in marketing, do something that you love to do in this space. That's going to allow you to kind of stomach all the volatility of the ups and downs of being an investor in this space too. And, don't shy away from any other opportunities when it comes to investing. Don't get yourself locked into one idea or one thing because you're going to miss a lot of other opportunities that are going to fly by. So other than that, enjoyed the time. I appreciate it. And can't wait to see you on Spaces.
Absolutely, Zach. I do want to thank you again for showing up the way that you did tonight, because what people saw here wasn't just an investor or content creator. They saw a living comeback story. And everybody needs to learn about the people that are creating in this space and the journey, and how journeys are sometimes not easy. But when you keep trying through it all, you will get to where you need to be. And sometimes, where we are is where we need to be to learn. So again, Zach, thank you so much. And I will see you around in spaces on the timeline.
Awesome.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate it, Leslie. Thanks so much. Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
Zach.